Hey everybody, my name is Steven, and today I'm going to give you hopefully a quick overview of something that I've been working on for a long while now, and I'm ready to release it, or at least beta release it, and see what you guys think. It is basically an entirely new control system for R2, but it uses the same components as Shadow or Padawan 360. So let's get into it. What is this system? Well, as most of you know, Shadow or Padawan 360 are the control systems for your R2. They control the drives, the dome, the sounds, the lights in many cases, especially if you've got something like a Arduino attached to it. And it's a great control system. A lot of people use it. It's got a lot of, I would say, user-friendly things that go on with it. But here's my problem. I built a Shadow system. I even have the PS3 remotes. And I liked the PS3 remotes because I could hide them down by my side, right? And no one could, well, unless you're a keen eye, you would not really see that I was controlling R2. Or I could put the controllers in my pockets and walk around. That was my goal. But when I got to building it, and I built this whole thing, this is, apart from my additions, this was basically the entire build that I made. This is the front, and this is the back, and this is the 24-volt side. This is basically the 5-volt side. When I got building it, and I got ready to pair my controllers with the Arduino, I had so much trouble. I couldn't find the MAC addresses. It wouldn't really work with my dongle. I tried 4 different USB dongles, all that were recommended on the group. I tried changing up bits of the code. I tried this, I tried that. And what I came to the realization is that Bluetooth is great. If you can get it to work, Bluetooth is great. But I almost exclusively go to con environments, mainly because I'm also C3PO. I do a C3PO build, and I walk around in cons or at events as C3PO. So I wanted to make an R2 to go with it. But cons and those kinds of events can be very noisy when it comes to Bluetooth signals. And it could interfere with your Bluetooth signal going to your Arduino, and you could potentially lose connection, which is not ideal, because then that means you just have to push R2 back and try to figure out how to connect the signal again. Or maybe turn them on, turn them off. I'm not sure exactly what the whole idea of like swapping inputs would be, but basically it's just not super reliable. In light events, small areas, home builds, all that kind of stuff works great, I'm sure. And there's been a lot of people who've made it work. I, for whatever reason, couldn't get it to work with my system. So then what do? Well, there's a couple of other systems that are out there that would meet my requirements. There's the Stealth system, which is basically an RC system, but it's all proprietary, and they build the controllers themselves, and it's a kind of an odd system. I know a couple of people who use it, but it just didn't seem like that was the system for me. Also, it costs like $650 just as the starting baseline. And then what were some of the others? I think obviously a general RC Kyber system, which is great, but you have those big controllers, or at very least two-handed controllers that might have a lot of functions, but they don't hide well. And I don't have a lot of functions on my Droid. I mostly just have lights, sounds, dome movement, and maybe I'll add in a trading card dispenser. So that's all I have on my Droid. So I don't need a ton of things like Kyber offers. I just need him to roll around, spin his head, make sounds, and do that all reliably, and then maybe a couple of extra peripheral things. So I started looking to general RC systems. And one of the biggest things that people kept telling me when I was asking about systems of RC was that you can do it, but you have to change the code. Shadow does not support RC systems, neither does Padawan. They're not built for that. So what was I to do? Well, I rewrote the code. That's pretty much it. I rewrote my own version of a control system for R2 that would accept RC signals, go into an Arduino, have those signals be interpreted by the Arduino and go out to the Sabertooth and to the Siren and to the MP3 board, and all that works within the general setup of a Shadow or Padawan 360 build. So I'm calling this Shadow RC. Now, why am I calling it Shadow RC? Well, one, it's RC, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But two, I found these. These are RC transmitters. They only have 6 channels, but when you put them together and you work with them in tandem, you now have 12 channels. So I labeled these A and B, A in your right hand, B in your left hand, and you basically just use this joystick as the drive control and this joystick as the dome control. It works exactly like you might expect the joysticks to work on a dual controller Shadow MD system. You have these two things, they're pretty concealable. You can kind of put them in your pocket and walk around, but you've got these, and these are RC, and they're not very expensive. I think each one of these is like 30 bucks. So when you take both of these together and you work with them, you get Shadow RC. And what this means is that, yes, it's not going to behave like Shadow did. Shadow has its own combos and its own this and its own that, and it works with, all these other things. But I've basically made my own control system, which I will go into in another video about like a deep dive into the system itself. But what you see now is you just add in these 2 receivers. One of these comes with 1 receiver. And the cool part is, once you pair it to that receiver, it's never going to get cross, it's not going to have its signals cross over to one of the other receivers. So B to B, A to A, done, you're paired pretty much for life. And what this does is that it makes it an RC system rather than a Bluetooth system. RC is not going to get as interfered with on the con floor. It's not going to have the problems of connection or, MAC addresses. It's not going to have the issues of, con interference where you're going to lose the signal. It's going to be a lot cleaner. These things have a range of 300 meters or something like that. Maybe even 500 meters. They're insane in terms of their range. You're never going to get that far away from your droid, hopefully. But they're insane in terms of range. And they're handheld, and they're wonderful, and they feel great, and they actually do drive this droid pretty well. I'll be going into that later when I get Shadow RC going for tuning. But basically, that's all they do. All they do is replace the input. Key phrase, they replace the input for Shadow MD. My code is different than Shadow, but the basic functions of drive the droid, move the droid's head, play sounds, this has Markduino integration. You can hook up a Markduino to this system and it'll work just like normal. I'll go into how you activate Markduino settings in another video, but basically these 2 controllers can control an entire droid, especially a basic droid, and you can use the same components that you would get with a general Shadow or Padawan 360 build, but just build it right into, just build the RC compatibility right into it. Upload Shadow RC and you're done. Hook it up the exact same way that you would have hooked up a Shadow build, but now you're done. So I'm going to be releasing this for beta release. If you're interested, if you have a Shadow build that maybe is a little not up to what you want, or if you want to test the RC controllers on this, this is a hot RC controller. They have I think maybe a knockoff version called Apris Queen, but hot RC, Apris Queen, whatever, this style of controller is what you're looking for. They're on Amazon. So if you want to drop this in and do a test of this, I'm going to be releasing this for beta release, and then we'll see how it goes. But I think that this is going to be a really big step up for people who want more reliability, who want RC style stuff, but don't want to sacrifice on the hideability of the PS3 remotes. But it also doesn't rely on old components. PS3 remotes are hard to come by. The right USB dongle is incredibly important. You know, those kinds of things, they're getting old. The technology is getting old. So let's move and change with the technology, and let's update it. In my case, updating it to RC. I'll come out with a lot more videos about how it works, how to go deep dive into it and all that. But for now, that's my little release and kind of breakdown of why I did this. If you're interested in working with Shadow RC and you want to hook these up and test them out and see how the code is working for you, I welcome it. I need some beta testers to kind of make sure that it's all working within the right parameters and all that. So hit me up if you want to do that. But otherwise, thanks guys. I hope you enjoy the control system, and I hope that it makes your droids way more reliable and way more fun to drive. So thanks everybody.